is poised to welcome its first far-right leader since Benito Mussolini and its first female Prime Minister. Giorgia Meloni's Brothers of Italy party campaigned on an anti-immigration and anti-abortion platform. Dr. Gabriele Abbondanza from the University of Sydney joins us with more. Gabrielle, good evening. Giorgia Meloni has distanced herself from fascism. What should we read into her political leanings?
Well, she has been rebranding herself for a few years now, and I know that her party is born from the ashes of what used to be a post-fascist party, and that many of her colleagues have had closer leanings toward the extreme far right. But I wouldn't read too much into it in terms of what Brothers of Italy, Giorgia Meloni's party, is in 2022. It's a fairly traditional, fairly right-wing party, but I wouldn't read too much fascism into it.
Now, Gabrielle, she's promised to be a leader for all Italians, but her views would suggest otherwise. So why are Italians voting for such a polarising figure at this time?
Well, we've been talking about a so-called crisis of democracy for years now, and Europe is usually the terrain where this has been outlined quite well. Italy makes no exception, and Italians who wanted a change in the political leadership have tried the populist five-star movement in the past, the regionalist far-right League Party, and now it's probably the turn of a newcomer, Giorgia Meloni, who is not a newcomer to Italian politics, but she's never been projected to these heights of political consensus.
Gabrielle, we've seen other far-right leaders fail in recent elections across Europe. How do you think this result will be received across the EU?
It is likely to be quite a worrying result. Let's not forget it. We are talking about the third largest economy in the European Union, the second largest industrial power in the European Union. But once again, I wouldn't overstate the so-called risk for democracy that has been voiced very vocally by a number of parties. Yes, early electoral promises were quite worrying, but this is what happens when you're the only party that is not supporting a wide coalition government, which is incidentally how Giorgia Meloni was able to gather so much political consensus in the first place. So a lot of criticism, of course, will be aired in the next few days and weeks. A lot of attention, especially from Brussels. Clearly, the European Union will want to see what such a major European state does. But like many other far-right parties before, one thing is to bark, one thing is actually to bite.
Indeed. Gabrielle, thank you for your insights tonight.
Thank you for having me.